we finally come to the most exciting part of the course, where we work with actual data and go through step by step on how to use the Xlookup function. Perhaps my earlier videos where we looked at the Xlookup function theoretically seemed a bit intimidating, but don't let that worry you. Just make sure that you have the data open along with us on your computer and you follow each step that I'm performing on your own computer as well. And soon, by the end of this course, you will find that you're able to do this with your eyes closed. So I'm going to start off with working on the sales achievement data sheet. You can see over here that I have the name, I have the person ID, and I have their achievement number, but I don't know who this person is. So for the people who are familiar with the lookup functions, in this section, we are going to talk about the simplest way of using Xlookup, which is to look up a single value for a particular lookup value. So here I'm going to try and find out the name of the person who has this person ID. So the way I would do that is, first I need to figure out where I need to look up this value from. And if you remember our earlier video where we went through the data set, we have the entire employee details stored in this employee data sheet. So let's go ahead and write our first Xlookup formula. Just follow along with me and feel free to pause the video and replay it a couple of times if you feel that you need to take a little bit more time in writing it along with us. So we start off with typing an equal to sign, which is the way you start all formulas in Excel. I'm going to type XL and the Xlookup formula automatically pops up over here. Either you can press the tab key to accept it, or you can go ahead and type the entire formula yourself. And then you will use an open bracket to finally enter the parameters that you need to pass through this formula. So here you can see that Excel helpfully provides us with all the parameters that we need to pass through this function. There are 3 of these parameters which are mandatory. And then you have 3 more parameters which are in square brackets, which indicate that these are non-mandatory parameters. For our first function, we will ignore the ones which are not mandatory and just write a simple Xlookup formula. So I need a lookup value. I want to look up who this person ID belongs to. So the value that I want to look up is in cell A2. So I've selected that over here. Now you can see I have to put a comma. So I've put a comma and now I need my lookup array. So where is this list of values which contains this lookup value? It's in my employee data sheet. So let's go ahead and click on that and then click all the values that may contain that employee's ID. So I've selected all of them here, another little comma, and now I need to find my return array. So what is the value that we are trying to return? We want to find out the name of the person with that person ID. So here are my return values. Let me go ahead and select all of these as well. And that's it, you're done. So you can now just go ahead and close this formula and you can see that we have now the name of the person to whom this person ID belongs. So a simple way of now applying this formula to all of our values over here is that you can just drag this formula over here and ideally you should get the values for all these people. But what's happening over here is that soon you are running into errors. And now let's take a moment and try and add one little bit more complexity to our formula in order to avoid these errors. So stay with me and let's look at this formula, which starts with looking up in the value in A2 in this array of A2 to A21. But what's happening over here? If you see over here, my lookup array has changed from A3 to A22 instead of A2 to A21. And similarly, if I look over here, it's become A6 to A25. So what's happening is that as I'm copying this formula, it is actually adding one number to the arrays that I'm looking up as well. These are known as cell references, and what we are doing over here is that we want to freeze the selection of the array that we are referencing. So what we will do over here is go back to our original formula and use dollar signs to indicate to the program that I do not want you to change these references. So I'm going to add a dollar in front of my column number. My column number is A, and a dollar in front of the row number, which is 2. And the same thing for my return array, $B, $2, and then the end, which is $B, $21. And now let's go ahead and drag these again. And you can see that now we have names for everyone. So let me go over this once again. What did we do? So the way Excel works is that as you move a formula around a sheet, it changes all the cells which are being referenced in context to the placement of the formula. So when we wrote our formula here, look at the first one. We wanted it to return the value for A2. But obviously, when we are copying the formula in the next row, we don't want it to return the value for A2. We want it to return the value for A3. So we do want that the formula should update these values in context to where the formula is pasted. But if we were to do that, what would eventually happen is that instead of selecting this entire row, when we come to the next row, we would have selected these rows, and so on and so forth. So by the time you're on your 7th value, your selection would actually become this. And we don't want that. We want the selection to stay here. And that is how, that is why we use the dollar signs to indicate to Excel that keep this selection frozen. And the same thing for the return array. So just go ahead and type this formula in your Excel, and trust me, when you click enter and you get a response, you will feel great. And what you've done right now is just typed your first Xlookup formula. So I'm going to take a moment here and then show to you how you can actually use Xlookup to simplify things even further. So here we are at the employee data. And you can see that apart from name, I have a lot many other values for the person that I might find useful to pull into my data set. So I might want to know which city Brady works in. He works in the lovely city of Adelaide. I might want to know what product line he sells. It's a product line called Gamma. And he has a team size of 3 people. So let's see how we can actually use Xlookup to return all of these values instead of typing the formula again and again. So what I could have done here is that I could have, let's say, written city over here and then Xlookup and looked up my person ID again in my employee data. This is my lookup array. And now instead of picking the name array, I could have picked the city array, which is fine, I suppose. Let's not forget to add our dollar signs. An easy way to add dollar signs is to use the F4 key. And I can do this. And now I've got the city for all these folks. But this is not really the most convenient way of doing that, is it? Because I'll have to keep writing my formula for each of these different values. So can Xlookup help me with this? And the fact is, yes, it can. So let's now look at another way of doing this.